Welcome to today's news discussion. I'm Claire, and joining me is Alan.
Hello, I'm Alan. We'll be covering several key stories together.
Let's start with the news that India and Cyprus have upgraded their ties to a strategic partnership. The reporting indicates that both nations aim to double investment in the next 5 years.
That's interesting. What specific areas are they planning to cooperate in?
According to the articles, they're focusing on infrastructure, shipping, maritime security, and counterterrorism cooperation. They've also established a joint task force to facilitate this cooperation.
So this is a significant deepening of their relationship. Did the leaders discuss any global issues during their talks?
Yes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides discussed global issues including West Asia and Ukraine. They also signed several MOUs and agreements.
It sounds like they're trying to strengthen their economic and security ties. Have they announced any specific plans for defense cooperation?
The reporting mentions a roadmap for defense cooperation for 2026-2031 and the establishment of a cybersecurity dialogue between the two countries.
That's quite comprehensive. Let's move on to another story. Alberta's government is planning a public vote on whether to hold a referendum on leaving Canada.
That's right. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith announced that voters will decide whether to hold a binding referendum on separation. However, the initial vote is not directly on separation.
So it's a vote on whether to have a vote. What's the reasoning behind this, according to the reporting?
The premier emphasized support for unity among citizens, and the government is framing it as a way to gauge public sentiment on the issue of separation.
I see. When is this vote supposed to happen?
According to the articles, the vote is scheduled for October 19th.
That's a significant development. It could potentially pose a challenge for the Canadian government if Alberta were to pursue separation seriously.
Exactly. Let's switch gears to the U.S. news. Kevin Warsh has been sworn in as the new Federal Reserve Chair, with President Trump expressing his desire for Warsh to help stimulate the economy.
Trump also emphasized that the Fed should remain independent, though. How did Warsh respond to that?
The reporting doesn't indicate a direct response from Warsh during the swearing-in ceremony. Trump did say he wanted Warsh's help in stimulating the economy.
That's a bit of a mixed message from Trump, isn't it? On one hand, he's saying he wants the Fed to remain independent, but on the other, he's expressing a desire for specific economic outcomes.
Yes, it seems like Trump is trying to balance his desire for economic growth with the need to maintain the Fed's independence.
Speaking of Trump, he recently announced that the U.S. will send an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. This seems to contradict previous statements about reducing the U.S. military footprint in Europe.
That's right. The announcement has caused confusion as it follows weeks of changing statements from Trump and his administration about future troop levels in Europe.
So what's the current situation with U.S. troops in Europe? Are there any other changes happening?
The reporting doesn't provide a clear picture of the overall U.S. troop presence in Europe. It just highlights that Trump's latest announcement is an apparent reversal of previous plans to reduce troop numbers.
Let's move on to some personal news about Trump. He's announced that he won't be attending his son Donald Trump Jr.'s wedding due to government obligations.
Yes, Trump cited government business in Washington as the reason, although there was a later report that he said he might try to attend but wasn't sure due to other pressing issues.
So there was some initial uncertainty about whether he would attend, and then a clearer statement that he wouldn't be there.
Exactly. It seems like Trump's commitments as president are taking priority over personal events.
That's understandable, given the demands of the presidency. Although it does show how his role affects his personal and family life.
Well, that's all for today's discussion. We've covered several key stories, from international relations to U.S. politics.
It's been a comprehensive conversation. Thank you for joining us, Claire.
Thank you, Alan. Goodbye.